Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Matt. Welcome to Simplified. This is a podcast where we talk all things restaurant industry, trends, events, break them down, try to simplify the complex. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Wing Lam, the co founder of the legendary Wahoo's Fish Tacos, right here in Orange County, California, where we both live. And he also co founded California Love Drop, which I'm excited to hear about from him today. So, no further ado, Wing, what's up?
That's great to be here. It's been a great weekend and it's ready to go. I can't believe how warm the weather is right now. It feels like summertime in California.
Oh man, I say it all the time. Sorry to all of those who aren't in Southern California right now, but yeah, it's local summer. It feels really good here. It's pretty great for November. I see those surfboards in the background. Did you are you still getting out surfing here and there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can't live in California and not go surfing.
That's awesome. Did you grow up in Southern California?
No, I am originally from Brazil, of all places. It's where my parents landed after World War II, opened one of the first Chinese restaurants in South America. And then we moved here in the early 70s. So I'm a long ways from home.
Wow, okay. That makes more sense that the Wahoos is described as a Asian Brazilian Mexican mix almost it sounds like. That makes a lot more sense. It's yeah, I love it. Um so you co-founded Wahoos in 1988, is that right?
Yep. It's been 35 years, just like yesterday, but yes.
That's wild. Well, congratulations. I will say I don't think it's there right now, but I used to live at the Wahoo's at 18th and Market in downtown Denver. I was there.
Okay.
I was a very frequent.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was there
That was
very often.
in the
Uh,
early 90s. Yes. We opened that did you go to the one on, is it Blake Street, I believe, in downtown Lodo?
yeah,
That was, I
yeah,
think,
that's what it was. Was it
90.
18th and Blake?
Yeah. 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 Right where the mall is. I think it's at 16th, the mall. Yeah. Right there.
Yeah, yeah. I was there a lot, so it was good times. Loved it. Still do. So tell me, let's dive into California Love Drop. This is something that you co-founded kind of during COVID and is still going. Would you describe it as a nonprofit? Tell us about it for those of us who aren't familiar.
Okay. So what happened was is it April of 2020 when they announced on Wednesday that all non-essential businesses were going to shut down and only essential businesses were to stay open. And then somewhere down, farther down on the speech by the governor, restaurants said, "Oh yeah, you can stay open." But because it wasn't on the top, on the headlining, all the restaurants literally went down about 85%. From Wednesday, when they announced it, by Friday, it was like we drove off a cliff. Literally, our restaurants became a ghost town. So we went from an average
Yeah,
employee staff of 20 per store down to three, a cashier, a cook, and a server. It was literally like a ghost town. So we decided to furlough everybody and send everybody home with all the toilet paper. Remember that? And all the stuff that we had in the stores and
yeah,
say, hey, because we don't know if it's going to be a week, a month, or whatever, right? So we just say, hey, well, just take what you
yeah,
can. But we still had some supplies that were ready to be thrown away because we didn't have the business. So I got together. I said, my brothers goes, hey, why don't I go to some local hospitals and deliver some lunches and dinners? So I did about four deliveries in a couple of weeks. And then after that, my brother said, this is very nice that you can, can find something to do because all the events, everything got canceled. But you're forgetting one minor detail. We don't have any more money. So, I love that you are repurposing what we have, but you cannot go out and buy more stuff. I said, okay.
yeah,
And but the need in me felt like, hey, I can really help the community. So I got a phone call from my friend Wendy at KLOS and say, hey, I saw what you're doing on social media. Are you crazy? You're supposed to be at home. And I said, no, I'm going out. And he goes, how can I help you? I goes, well, I could use some money. And she goes, why don't I talk to the folks at KLOS and use the basic radio station to create a GoFundMe page for you where we ask our listeners, that if you like to help feed frontliners, here's a company that's doing it. But she said, but we can't say Wahoo's. Why don't we come up with a name and basically create a nonprofit out of it? So I said, what do you have in mind? And she goes, what about the California Love Drop? Because we're out there spreading the love. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So Heidi and Frank on KLOS started promoting it every day to say, hey, if you donate money, Wing will go out on the behalf of California Love Drop. And we teamed up because you can't just bring food. So I got my friend from Yogurtland, Monster Energy Drink, Hint Water, and Cliff Bar. We all teamed up and we started going out and bringing snacks, treats, desserts, drinks, and food. And people thought, how in the world can you guys afford to do this? And myself and Yogurtland were the only ones that really needed money. The rest of them, they were going to throw it away anyway because everything was dated. It was going to perish in a matter of like 6 months. So we repurposed all the stuff that was going to be thrown away. And we started delivering backs, of food and treats to all of the police, fire, hospital stations. And the ball just kept on going. And about a year ago, when things slowed down on the front lines, all the charity events started coming back live. So we started getting asked by our friends, can you help us at the food bank? Can you help us at our golf tournament? So we started coming in and helping the volunteers, doing all kinds of stuff and recognizing their work in the charity world. So the ball is still rolling. We're over 500 deliveries, over 2,500 meals, or 250,000 meals later. And it's just been an amazing journey. And, the ball's still moving.
That's amazing. And so what does it look like today? So today, what does California Love Drop look like?
Well, today, one of the big things that one of our partners that jumped on early was Antis Roofing, because Charles and I do a lot of charity work. And he started hosting blood drives at his building because half of it was empty. The other half had like 2 employees. So he emptied out all the cubicles and all that, created this huge space. And Susan, who happens to be his right-hand person, sat on the board of the American Red Cross. And they said, hey, why don't we create, because remember, everything has to be 6 feet apart. But when you have 10,000 square feet of empty space, it's easy to put about 20 different, I call it places, where people can, donate blood. So we set up these blood drives. And I don't think Charles realized that I was a partner of the American Red Cross. KLOS was the media partner. So we said, why don't we use our bandwidth to promote it? And at these drives, we'll bring meals for the donors and the nurses. So that was basically the beginning of about 30, quote unquote, meals, lunches every week. So we've done, I think, about 120 blood drives. And that's ongoing still because that side of the building is still empty. But so like this week, we'll do 2 of them. On Wednesday, we'll do almost 300 meals because it's a big one. And then on Friday, we'll do a smaller one, which is about 30. That's the average one. But when we go to a college campus, all the students show up. So we're out there. And then last week, we went to a couple of hospitals because November is the Men's Prostate Awareness Month. So we've gone to different cancer centers. The month before was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we went to a bunch of, cancer centers for women. So for us, it's just an amazing process. So all the golf tournaments were in the old days was just, bring some lunches. Now it's the California Love Drop. We show up and at these events, we're able to solicit more partners because we asked all the charities, hey, do you guys have anything going on? How can we be a part of it? So all of these people that come to the events, they see us and they're like, oh my God, I was just going to hire just somebody else to cater. I might as well donate the money to you guys, right? So, and it's a lot more cost effective for us because we bring everything. Because, if you went out and tried to order something from Yogurtland or Monster or wherever, you'd be paying $5 each. But when we're together, you're paying $5 and you get everything. So it's been an amazing partnership. And we bring literally all the treats, all the goodies, and it's all the love, plus having a media partner to recognize what we're doing really helps the effort. Because at the end of the day, somebody in everybody's company is asking, well, what kind of publicity do we get out of all this, right? And having
Right.
the number
Yeah.
one radio show in Southern California talk about what we just did for whoever, right, helps the cause. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing partnership we have all the way around.
That's huge. Well, I love that, like, um, yeah, when I guess when crisis hit, the crisis of business, your business, you know, kind of being obliterated, like all restaurant owners felt
Oh,
during COVID, and that you decided to serve the community. That's just so that's such a great story, so admirable. And I heard somebody say recently, he was talking about a friend of mine who works with the Boys and Girls Club. He said, when you feel stuck, serve, right?
yep.
I think you know him. You know David. You know
Yeah,
David,
I know
right?
David. That's right.
Um, you know
David
David.
has been a huge recipient of our efforts.
Yeah. Love that. He said that, and that stuck with me. And and I feel like, I guess there's some people, maybe some restaurant owners who haven't recovered from COVID. I don't know if you guys would feel like you have recovered from the hit that you took from that time, but what would you say to somebody who maybe they still haven't come out of it as an owner, as a restaurant owner? Um, yeah,
Well,
who maybe still
there,
feels stuck.
there's two parts to it, right? On the sales side of it, right, it's still really difficult because the new
Yeah,
office normal is 3 days a week, right? Well, 3 out of 5, that means you're 40% down in foot traffic. That's a huge number to make up. So you can do whatever you want to do, but you're not going to get them to come because they're not there. They're working from home or they're working remotely, right?
yeah,
So how do you make up a 40% drop in foot traffic? Well, you got to pivot. You got to get creative on your delivery system, right? Because you got to get, if they're not coming in, you got to get it to them. So that's one side. And you all have to be creative in terms of packaging, reformatting, because there are certain foods that travel well and certain foods that don't. They get soggy, they get cold, whatever that means, right? So you just got to think it through on how do you make your food travel better, still have the value and the experience they would have if they came to the restaurant, which is not an easy answer. So we've had to get creative as well on that side.
right.
The flip side is also finding ways to cut down on the costs because our labor and our food costs is literally up 50%, no matter how you look at it, right? And coming up next year,
Yeah,
labor is going to go even higher, minimum wages and all that. So today, even before the new mandate, minimum wage is somewhere around 20 artificially. And that's because there's other companies offering similar packages, not in our industry, right? So if you want to get somebody to come in
right.
hospitality, you got to match what they're making somewhere else, right? So it's a huge factor. So you got to get creative on the labor side. So this is where, again, you're getting to talk to some of your vendors, whoever that may be. We happen to have a really good partner in Vitco because that also cuts
Hmm.
down on your delivery cost, right? So if you want to save some money on your proteins, your lettuce, whatever, you got to find a partner on, the supply side. And the other place,
Yeah,
there's this new thing that came out about 10 years ago with the Obama healthcare. So there is a space in there where you can save another 10 or 20% on your health insurance. So those are the ways you can save money. So we have another company called Sureco that is amazing and being able to provide exactly what you have now, but at a lower cost. So these are the ways you got to find it. So for the first time in 35 years, I have to focus not just on the sales side, but on the cost side. So having a couple of partners that can help you bring down 10 or 20% when you're literally everything else is up 50, it at least helps you. So unlike a supermarket, like right now, if you go to the grocery store, I mean, the prices are unbelievable and you can't argue. I
yeah,
mean, it is what it is, right? But at the restaurant,
yeah,
you increase it by 5%. And people are like, oh my God, what are you doing? Trying to rob me, blah, blah, blah. My burrito went up 10 cents. And so
yeah.
we can raise it 5%. And we're still down 45, right, from the real cost increase, where a supermarket can
Right.
raise it 100% and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's the
Right.
other major struggle.
Yeah.
So we're very slow. We're talking about the lagging. The food industry, like hotels, I mean, people have a heart attack because they're like, oh my God, the hotel room is so much more now. And they don't understand because
Yeah.
it's the labor, all the other stuff you got to pay for.
Yeah. So you guys had to re-examine your entire infrastructure
Yes, yes.
that in ways that you hadn't had to have looked at in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, you really have to reinvent. You got to negotiate with your vendors because it's hard to renegotiate, let's say, with your meat guy because he's seeing his costs go up. So the only places where there's wiggle room is on the delivery side, right? Because there's ways,
Yeah.
and I hate to give away all the secrets, but there are points
Right.
to be had in place. So you got to talk to the vendors, right? And a lot of the big guys can't, there's no wiggle room because they're just passing on all the costs to you and they're hoping that you can
Right.
pass it to the consumer. But in the hospitality, it's hard to pass it to the consumer because they know they've been coming to your restaurant for years. They know the price of a taco was $3.50. You raise it to
Right.
360, they have a heart attack. And your real
Yeah.
increase would have been to 4, but you can't, right? So you really got to find the vendors that can negotiate a better delivery cost to you. And that's where it comes in handy with having great partners.
Yeah. That's great. That's great advice. I'm curious just because again, I'm so intrigued by kind of your response in April of 2020. What is it for you? Do you feel like that made you as an individual or an entrepreneur able to immediately say, I'm going to go serve, I'm going to go help others, use our resources to help others, instead of, I guess, hiding or being scared? Like what is it for you that lets you do that, helps you do that?
Well, in life, there's basically two kinds of people, right? Fight or flee, as always they say. So when you're
Yeah.
faced with something very uncomfortable, very whatever controversial, whatever you want to call it, right? Situation, either you go home or you stand there and hold your ground, right? So I chose to always say, what's the worst that can happen, right? So I went forward where everybody else went home. And the
Yeah.
difference is I survived. We're not out of it yet, but I did much, much better than all my friends initially. But once they saw what I was doing, they called me and I goes, hey, there is plenty of hospitals that want the free food. There's plenty of police stations because remember the thing that happened in Minnesota, so there were plenty
Yeah.
of people that wanted to feel like they were appreciated during a
Yeah.
time when it was all negative, right? So I said, but you just can't give it away. You got to find a way to cover the cost because none of us have any money right now. So you're going to have to get
Yeah.
creative and how you find it. And I told them what I was doing. I shared it with all my friends. And they said, but you're winging it. I'm like, no, I am out there surviving. So it's not like I had this brilliant idea, but I had a lot of friends. And together, when you band, you always hear the word synergy. Well, synergy can only be
Yeah.
created when there's a bunch of you guys trying to do the same thing together for the better cause of something else. So the idea wasn't that we were all trying to make money. We're saying, what can we do for the community while we're trying to
Yeah.
survive? So together
Yeah.
we all band, we shared the resources. I always made sure that everybody got the same recognition and together we all survived, right? So today when we're much
Yeah.
stronger, we use the word we're better together, you know? And I think the craziest part of all this is on the food side, everything made sense. The Yogurtlands, the Monsters, all that made sense. But my Antis
Yeah.
roofing guy was the most unlikely person that should have ever been a part of it. But as we say, having a little bit of faith. And he said, why would I want to do this? He goes, well, first of all, Charles, everything else got canceled. It's not like
Yeah.
you have another, oh, I'm going to go do this instead of this. There was no instead. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that was positive in a time when everything got shut down. Remember, there were no games, there was no galas, there was nothing. Everything got canceled.
Right.
So I said, if you
Yeah.
go with me, I don't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, he started getting, when you hear your company, right? And then all of a sudden, people started calling him for more work. And that's when the light bulb went off. Because, oh my God, when people thought I was going to be out of business because roofers were non essential either, all of a sudden
Yeah.
we found ourselves working. So together we became better. And all of a sudden, in the midst of all this, 2023, December and January was the worst rains we've ever had in how many years? 30, 40
Yeah.
years.
That's right.
So when you hear the roofing guy for 3 years on the radio and on TV, all of a sudden there's a leak. Who are you going to call? The only name
Yeah.
the top of mind. So Anthus had their best year in the history of their company in 23. And the only difference is between the last 30 some years and this year. Yes, it was more rain than ever, but it was the fact that everybody remembered the name Antis Roofing and they called him.
Yeah.
So again, I can't do anything about that other than I know for a fact that other roofers are like, what about us? I'm like, you should have been there when the whole thing started, right? But they
Yeah.
weren't. Charles was the
Yeah.
only guy that says, I have faith. Plus, more important than anything else, it was the right thing to do. Go
Yeah.
out and take care of the people that take care of us. So when all that happens, they're like, oh my God, there's a leak. Who am I going to call? The people that take care of us, Anthus Roofing. So it all worked out.
Yeah. I great. It's great. It's a great, I'm sure it's a blueprint for business and also for pivoting and surviving as an entrepreneur. I'm sure for the last 35 years that you've had to do in general. I'm sure that attitude has come up over and over. This opportunity to pivot or having to quickly lean in to serving or to fight instead of flight, like you said,
Yeah.
over the last 35 years of scaling a restaurant brand. Um,
Yeah.
what's next for Wahoo's? You guys are all over the map. Iconic Southern California brand. What's next?
So a year ago, my former partner in Austin, Texas, passed away of cancer.
Mm.
He battled it for a couple of years, but it came back with a vengeance. But in the silver lining was one of his former employee managers teamed up with another friend, Jesse, and we're basically this coming year in 24, we're going to reopen not one but two locations in Austin, Texas. February or March of next year, we'll have two new locations. And currently, we're talking to friends in Arizona, Nashville, and possibly, Utah about, relaunching the brand. And we are still basically getting California ready to reopen more stores because real estate is finally settling down again because it went through a lull, then it got crazy expensive when interest rates were really low. So right now we're looking for more spots. And
Yeah,
basically we're poising, we used a lot of the PPE money to remodel and revamp, the current locations. We did lose almost a dozen stores during the pandemic, but now
yeah.
we're stronger than ever. And we are almost back to, where we were before the pandemic. And then we're ready to basically start growing again.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. And it sounds like
Thanks.
hasn't been an easy year by any means, but sounds like there's some good stuff ahead, some expansion ahead. What Nashville would this be your first expansion into
Yes,
that
we
area,
are
that part of the
basically,
country?
hopefully, 90% of the worst is behind us. So it's time to, finish up a few things and get ready to grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did um
No, but
well, that's really great to hear. What one more question for you because I'd love to hear
sure.
um so somebody who is out there, what would you say to if there's a few guys who are wanting to launch a new brand, they're passionate about it, they're dreaming, and they want to be in 35 years, they want to be what you're doing right now. What is the advice? And I know that's like how can you possibly sum it all up into like one little pithy statement, but what would be advice to those guys who are opening up a shop today and they want to be doing what you're doing in 30 years?
I would say more important than just because remember, we always say 95% of all restaurants or whatever all fail within their first few years or whatever, right? The
Yeah.
most important thing is all of you guys out there that have the passion for doing whatever it is, whether it's a drink, a dessert, a main course, breakfast, lunch, it doesn't matter what day part or what you're going to be serving is. I'm assuming the reason you want to go into it because you have enough friends that told you you make an amazing product, whatever that may be. Well, none of us will fail because our product isn't good. We're
Mm.
going to fail because we can't get enough people to come in to order them from us. So half of the battle is making it, the other half is getting them to buy it, right? So that's why guys in sales usually make more than the guys in manufacturing. Because the
Right.
hard part about making something is selling it. Because there's 10 million of us that can make the same thing, right? So I say go out there, you have the passion to make whatever it is that you believe is the best of whatever category that why don't I do it because nobody else is doing it as good as I am, right? But you got to remember the marketing side of it. So today, your ability to really have a great social media presence, your ability to really have a good network, because you need to have people doing it for you, right? As we call it, user generated content. So if you
Yeah.
have enough, media hype, whatever that means these days, right? People are going to go, oh my God, I got to go try this because I heard from such and such, not from us, but from somebody else, a third party. And that's what you really need. So if you have a great network of friends in the third party world, especially if they have big followers, right? Because the
Yeah.
whole idea is if you only have, the bandwidth of telling one person, not 10,000, you're not going to get that many people to come in. So
Yeah.
more important than making an amazing product is the amazing ability to have people know about it. So that's the most important thing. So make sure that you have the demand for it, but more important, you have the ability to communicate that demand to everybody. Because otherwise, you're going to be sitting there every day, goes, oh my God, I made 10,000 widgets today and nobody's buying it, right? So you
Yes.
got to have the ability to let people know that you are the newest, shiniest new object in the whole neighborhood. And without it, they're missing out. And with it, it's going to be the best solution to whatever that they were looking for, right? So, but
Yeah.
it's the communication part. That's comes down to the teamwork, having great resources, having great partners that are able to do it. And that's what I always, people say, oh my God, what you did with your restaurant, the California Love Drop. I go, hey, nothing would have been possible without the network and the teamwork of all my friends and all my vendors.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I, I can't think of something better for somebody here who wants to get into restaurants just because they love making the food and they love their product and their product is great. But um, that's that's not it's not even half the battle. It's like 20% of the battle. You got to get it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you for that. And thank you for the work with California Love Drop and for putting that out there during a time when it was a scary time in the world, and for doing something positive and for serving instead of fleeing. Appreciate that. Appreciate your work. And thanks for the many tacos that I've enjoyed over the last over the last 20 years. I appreciate it. Yeah, I moved here from Denver about 5 years ago, and yeah, and I didn't know that I was moving to like the home of Wahoo's when I moved here, so I was stoked to learn that. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you.
All right, Wing, thank you a lot for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.